Hello, everybody. This is
Hi.
Wesley from the Central Ohio Game Dev Group. We are not live yet in terms of visuals, but we are in audio. So, um, always playing around with, the good audio stuff. I think we're trying to, really do have nailed down the audio portion because we were able to actually kind of do a pre-game talk test and whatnot just to kind of make
Yes.
sure everything's good.
And you, the audience, didn't hear it this time.
Not that we know of, unless you're playing a game with us and you're like, hey. uh, yeah, so cool. So if you don't know us, my name is Wesley. I work with COG as an admin, event coordinator. I also work with a local game studio called Multivarious Games, and been working with COG for several years. So those of you who are new, say hi. If you're joining us on the YouTube channel where you can hear us, there's a chat channel usually on the right side. You can ask any questions throughout the event, make any notes or comments. Our GameDev Meetup is just a way for us to kind of like collectively get together, talk about anything that's local to the Central Ohio area. But you can talk about anything. I mean, there's something in the news that you thought was interesting. Let us know. Scott's going to be helping me with like just kind of notes from the text channel, and I'll try to keep tabs on that too. But yeah, Scott, you want to talk about yourself a little bit? Who you
Yeah,
are?
sure. So, hey, everybody. Miss you. Really wish we could get together, but this is the next best thing, and we've been having a lot of fun with this. But yeah, I'm Scott. We've been working with you, the COG team, or the COG members, for several years now, like Wes said. Just talking about all things dev and sharing our experiences and helping each other. We've got a couple things to announce today that I think coming up are some pretty cool things, and I'm excited about one of the presentations we have today. So
Yep.
it'll be
So,
fun.
yeah. Actually, I guess I'll get to it then. Perfect introduction. We also, just kind of as a side note, we do have, uh, you know, along with us, we have Caleb, that actually helps out with us too. If you were here last Sunday, right, was our Let's Play. He helps to run those. He's done a lot of stuff with helping with different groups, just like Scott and I. So he's also another person that kind of helps us out from time to time. So we're kind of like the Tres Amigos, so to speak, working through here. Yeah, so we're just here to kind of help everybody else, you know, um, just kind of get into the game development scene here in Ohio, and have a lot of fun doing it too. So let me go ahead and switch over
While you're
to our
doing that,
news.
if you are new and you want to check out the uh, previous videos that we've had, the last Let's Play that Caleb did is amazing. Definitely check it out. We played Wasteland 3 with one of the developers of that game, the main designer of that game. So that was excellent. Um, I think he's in the chat too. So,
George, yeah, George is in
yeah, I
here.
think George is in
Yep.
the chat too. So, yeah, that was great. It was an excellent event. We had a lot of great questions, live questions from the crowd. We're looking to do more stuff like that. So definitely check it out.
Yep. So that kind of brings me into, I guess the next slide we can do. So I got that through. So COG is a Central Ohio Game Dev Group, is the long version. But basically, we're just a collection of game developers who want to help each other make games. So we collaborate with a lot of local groups. Obviously, like the more groups we can get together, the more we can help each other out. We group up with a lot of different university colleges like CCAD, Columbus State, OSU. I mean, there's other ones too. Miami University, Shawnee State is a good one. There's tons of them out there. So we try to like collaborate with those as well as other game groups. There's other game groups in Ohio. There's ones in Cincinnati, the Cleveland Game Dev Group. There's one in Cleveland, the Cleveland Game Dev Group, uh, and other ones in like Youngstown and Dayton. So we're always trying to like work with each other to kind of like find other different people that are interested in getting to know each other, especially nowadays since a lot of us are like usually, in home. working from home or just kind of staying in, we do a lot of stuff to kind of collaborate online. Um, so yeah, keep in touch. If you're interested in those groups, we can make a message there. Um, and something to kind of mention later is that we're going to have a lot of this stuff kind of in one central area in our website that we're going to be working on, and I'll talk more about that here in just a sec. Uh, but aside from that, we do have currently right now 3 reoccurring events, pending holiday times, obviously, because things can kind of mix things up. But right now, as a pending thing, we have our events on YouTube Live usually, and/or our Discord, which is what we're actually streaming from. So we have the second Friday of the month is our prototype and play. So that is this month is December 11th, from 6 to 9 p.m. So that's actually on our Discord channel. So I did see that that says all YouTube Live. So that one isn't actually YouTube Live. I should probably make a note of that. But uh, we do that on Discord, and we give basically, if you were interested in presenting something that's game dev related, usually a game, but doesn't necessarily have to be. It could also be, music that you made for a game, or it could be like, last time we had students from Shawnee State, with the help of Marcus Sensi, do a streamed event of a game that they were working on called Poltergeist, excuse me. And they did a streaming events every hour of the game, because they were kind of working on it, and weren't able to get a live build of it yet. It just wasn't ready. But they were able to kind of showcase it, and then answer any questions people had and have a live discussion in Discord. So they received uh, a well, actually, I can kind of show it a little bit. Whoop, wrong one.
And that was a great session too, because there was a
Yeah.
lot of really good quality questions and chatter back and forth. They had a lot of really neat insight of what went right, what went wrong. It was a good session.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And that's all hosted in Discord. We are looking at other tools we can use, but right now, if you want to be a presenter, just let us know. You can let us know in the chat. You can let us know in our Discord, which our link is down here. And you can join us, and you just let me know, and or Scott or Caleb or whoever, and we will set you up with a personalized text channel and a personalized voice channel, so you can stream. So yeah, so that should be pretty easy for the most part, to do that, and you can kind of come and go as you want throughout the night. Um, the next one we have is our Let's Play. So Caleb's kind of just been really taking charge of this one, which is really cool. We'd love to see more of this. So if you guys are interested in doing events that you're interested in doing yourselves, let us know. We're here to promote you guys. Um, and Caleb definitely has done a really good job on this. Like we mentioned, we did a really cool one last week with Wasteland 3 with George Zeitz, who was a game designer for that. Um, and yeah, a lot of fun just kind of playing through that, and kind of, usually we dissect them and just kind of have fun having open discussions, and that was really kind of a fun one to kind of ask the developers of that. If you have a game that you think would be kind of fun to play, we usually do like a vote session. Sometimes we theme them. Well, usually I say we theme them. So a lot of times it kind of tends to be, like maybe it's a puzzle game this month, or it's a narrative game, or it's a rhythm game. We've done that before. We'll kind of get that narrowed down as we get closer. Usually the week or two before, we'll try to get those up, and create a quick Google forum, and get everybody to vote what they want, and get that kind of finalized for that Sunday, which in this one is December 20th, from 2 to 4 p.m. Um, and yeah, have a lot of fun with that one. And then the last one we usually have, which is the one you're in right now, is the GameDev Meetup. So that's the last Saturday of the month. That tends to be, for December, is 26th, from 1 to 4 p.m. And that will be, you know, kind of pending right now. I mean, I at this point can make it. I know that things can change, because I know that is the day after Christmas. So we may or may not even get a lot of people. Who knows? But we try to make these as reoccurring as possible because we want to make sure that there's always something going on each month, right? So we're always trying to get everybody an update on things and kind of like where the status where COG is, and maybe there's some new tools or resources that you all may be able to tap into. So we always try to make these reoccurring as much as possible. Just as well, we do have a presenter today. If you're ever interested in being a presenter, we do have a Google form, um, set up for anybody to sign up and pre-reg beforehand. Um, even like with this one, we were able to do this like the day before. So we usually let people know that in any of these events, if you are presenting, please do know that this is a family-friendly event. Our motto has been like, if you don't want your grandma, if you think your grandma wouldn't approve of the message that you're saying, then don't. No swearing and all that kind of good stuff. But we try to be pretty open. It's like it's not, pretty crazy. We've even, kind of adapted if someone has like a game that is like more violent. We try to notate that beforehand through various means. But for the most part, like just watch your language. Just don't do anything you think, someone like your grandma may not approve. And that's all we usually ask for these like different events that we're presenting to. So if you're interested in, say, the GameDev Meetup and presenting there, we have a Google form that we can send out, and that will give you access to present. So you can also let us know in the YouTube channel, chat channel, if you're interested and say you want to present in December or maybe January. You can do it literally as many months ahead of time as you want to. And this can be game dev related. It could be a tool that you thought was interesting. It can be a, like I said, maybe it's a tool or something that you made. Maybe you're a voice actor, or maybe you're a musician or a programmer, and you thought this was cool what you made. That is interactive and game development related. We'd be happy to have you. So.
Or if you learn something new and you want to share this really cool technique that you learned,
Yeah.
we'll do that too. Yeah.
Well, that was like, what was it? October, I think I presented Gather Town, which was kind of like an online, like top-down video game like experience, but it was like for collaborating with people. So it wasn't really a game, but it was like you have a little 16-bit, 8-bit looking character and environment, and you could walk around in it, and then you could talk to people that was in the same town, so to speak, the same online town. So, yeah, if you're interested, you're in the YouTube channel. You can check and see our video on that from October. It's a lot of fun. It's pretty cool. We have a COG one that we're building. I saw another guy from the Duke from uh, Smiling Cat Entertainment. He's making one for his game just for fun. So they're free up to 25 people. So they're really easy just to kind of make and have fun with. So, cool. Well, I'm not going to keep pushing through too much, so I'm going to keep moving along. But just as you can see, we have a lot of online opportunities for you to get connected. Our online events are always and will be for a while until we get our website up. Is our meetup page. So a meetup is like how we create events and kind of put them on a calendar for anybody to kind of get to. That's at thecog.com. And then we have our Facebook group, which also, if you just look up the COG, you'll find us. That's a great way. We've got a lot of folks up there, but it's a great way to kind of talk to us too. Sometimes we'll post stuff and events from other different groups. Discord is a new one for us this year, but we've been having a lot of good fun there. So you can see our Discord link there. It's also, from what I can tell from Scott,
I
you put
dropped it
it
in the
in.
chat.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you're not part of that, please do join us. We'd love to talk to you in real time. So. And then our YouTube channel, which we now have over 100 subscribers, which is awesome. It's really, really cool. So now we have a more simplified link for that. Just youtube.com/c/thecog. And you should find us pretty easily. So, cool. A little bit more information. A lot of this I kind of already went over. Our meetup page is over 1,800 members strong. like I mentioned before, our new online efforts are on YouTube Live, Discord, and our COG website. Which just to kind of note that we've been we've started it. We just haven't had a chance to finalize a couple of things. That takes a little bit more time to do, but it's going to be a landing page for all our resources. So things like these links and whatnot that we keep talking about, which are a little bit spread out, we're going to have all in one location. So the cog.com is going to be our finalized website. We've already set up a kind of a block of that, so we'll be showcasing that pretty soon, and it's my goal to get that done before the end of the year, while I'm on winter break. So we will be working on that very, very soon. Um, so keep in close proximity to that. As for December, we're still observing state and federal guidelines for social distancing. Everybody's still working from home at this point, and so are we. So we kind of just update this from month to month. I mean, as of right now, we're still pretty certain that this is going to go on for the next couple of months. The good news is, we've got vaccines coming up, so that things will start to open up more. It seems like, but as of right now, for the next couple of months, we're still closed, mainly because like usually what we do is when we have live events, they tend to be more in person. Um, at a co-working space called the Idea Foundry, and they're still kind of off and on about their space. So are we. So uh, so we will keep you posted as those things start to change. But just kind of keep in mind that the next couple of months we'll still be online. But cool. Sweet. Any other questions before I move on to presentations? Did you see anything come up, Scott? I think I was
The only thing, and I also took care of it in the chat,
Sure.
we had Bunny Gun Gaming, that's an amazing name.
Yeah.
Asked if we had before everything happened, did we stream our events when we were in person? And we haven't, but we've always been interested in doing so.
Yeah.
I think we need some better equipment.
We just
I
need
think
a
we need some
camera.
better equipment to do so. Yeah. 'Cause at home we can do our webcams because we're up close and personal, but those are like a bigger scope thing. So we
Right.
need better res cameras to do so and make sure we get our lighting right, and everyone's mic'd, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit bigger scope. But we've also done some special events with other cities. I know we've talked about doing stuff with Cleveland, but I know there was somebody on the West Coast we did some events with where those were streamed, kind of like more of like an in-person kind of presentation.
Right. Yep. Yeah, and some of these things will still stay online. I think like the Let's Play, I think it's just easier to do online. So I don't see that moving away, but those are things that we can talk about internally too. But I think I don't know, maybe we could have them in person too. But the cool thing is that we've always wanted to do things like through a streaming service, um, just so that we can like open it up to people that are not even local to Columbus, Ohio, or Central Ohio. Um, and the cool thing is just like going in and being able to record these on YouTube so people can go back if they say couldn't make it that day. So yeah, we're gonna look into that more. Maybe we invest in like a simple camera that, or maybe the Idea Foundry has one or something like that, and we can use that to stream live so that you all can see it. So yeah, we had them before, but we definitely are interested in doing it and always have been. So I think we're going to look more into that for sure. So, good question. Uh, Anything else?
Nope.
Cool. Yeah, and if you are from out of town, we welcome you for sure, and we'd be happy to connect you with other groups too, because we we do a lot to try to help, with our local communities, but we're also very much about like connecting you with other people too. So, if you have any questions like that, please let us know. I've got a lot of resources for you for sure. So cool. All right. So today we did a couple of COG announcements. There's one more thing I want to note before we go to our main event. But just so you know, we've got Stuart, who's going to be helping us today with a game that he's showcasing. And then just kind of as a note, we'll be doing all our networking and discussions on YouTube Live. But if you want to, we would highly encourage you to join us after the event today on our Discord channel. And we have our general chat channel, obviously, but also a voice channel that's called General. Is a great way to get to know us, so you can talk to us in person. We'll be there for a little bit, at least until 4, and then after that, you can always talk to us in Discord or whatnot. We'd be happy to help. But it's a great way to kind of get to know us. We'll also be inviting Stuart there, so if you have more questions for him after the call, you can talk to him. Or if you just want to get to know each other, if you just want to catch up with folks, see how people are doing, it's a great place to kind of do a social gathering of that. So, but yeah, before we dive too far in, there is one more thing I wanted to let you guys know, and that is, let me see if I can do this gracefully. All right. Currently, right now, we have pending our COG Global Game Jam uh, event, our site. So if you're not familiar with Global Game Jam, it's an amazing international game development event um, for people all around the world. We do this every year. This is kind of like our staple. Usually happens around the first month of the year. This year it's happening January 27th through the 31st. And they've been discussing this for a long time, and they are all doing this online, as to my understanding. So we will also be online. The good news is, even though this is new to us, because a lot of times we would do this, well, primarily we would only do this on site in location at the Idea Foundry, which is a co-working space in Columbus. But this year we are going to do it all online. Um, and yeah, it's a blast. So basically, we'll start talking about, once we get approval, we'll start sending out information. People can sign up. There's still some things we need to talk about in terms of some of the mechanics of it. But we've done this with a local game convention called GDEX. If you're not ever familiar with it, the gdex.com is a great event that we also hosted online, but we did a game jam there. And we did it all through, instead of like Global Game Jam, we did it through itch.io. Yeah, so we had a lot of good entries there. So we've got a lot of experience now. I mean, not a lot of experience, but we got some experience that can kind of really help us, like, platform off and dive into the deep end, so to speak, with Global Game Jam. So we'll be using a lot of those networks. So we definitely will be using Discord. That just seems to be the best approach. But we'll be using some of the same mechanics that we've been using for the GDEX Game Jam as well. So looking forward to that.
Me too.
So keep in
Global Game
close
Jam is always
contact.
a super exciting event. I'm always excited to look forward to it every single year. And I highly encourage, if no one has done it, we'll be talking more and more about it as it gets closer.
Yep.
But if you haven't done it, I highly encourage you to give it a try. It doesn't matter what your experience is. It's all about having fun, learning, making new friends. And there's no losing at it. It's a win-win situation. It's a very fun event. If you have any questions, just reach out to us on Discord or type them in the chat. We're happy to talk about it.
Yep. Yep, definitely. And it's kind of what I've been mentioning. Game jams in general are a really great way if you are looking to like get into the industry, to kind of get a little bit of a taste of what it's like. And this one, it is technically a 48-hour event. So it starts Friday evening after work, and then it'll last until usually around 2 or 3 on Sunday. And then we do like an ending ceremony just to kind of showcase some of the work that you guys do, um, which is a lot of fun. It's a great way to meet new people, even if you don't have game development experience. You should definitely join anyways, because you'd be surprised how much you can learn and or know already. Um, and it's a great way to kind of like I said, get to network and meet new people. You can also, you're more than welcome to bring your own team. We do encourage to start from scratch, although there's a lot of tools and resources out there that you can already use. But at the end, it is all about collaboration and being able to share all the content that you've done. They do have where you want to showcase it where it is actually uploaded to this website so people can collaborate, share, play, and work with what you made. But you can definitely, at that point, if you want to work on the game afterwards, and there has been a lot of games through with Global Game Jam that have been taken it to a completed state and sold on their own market, so to speak, and shopped it around and sold games like that. I think uh, like Undertale, for example, was a game jam for sure. I don't know if that was
Right.
Ludum Dare or Global Game Jam, but definitely that was a jam game that was kind of finalized and completed. So you just never know. You may make something that you maybe want to sell sometime, but it's a great way to gain some experience, nevertheless. So, uh, lots of fun. So we'll be talking about this more often for sure. Maybe in December, definitely in January. So keep in touch, and when we get approved, we'll start, finalizing things on our end and sending out all the good stuff for you to get connected. So, cool. Right. So, without further ado, let me make sure I'm not missing anything.
I think you got everything.
Yeah, I think that's it. So,
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and switch over to our main presentation, and we will actually introduce our first presenter, Stuart. So let me go ahead and exit this so I'm kind of like a little bit in the know. All right. While we're in here, since I've actually, in our Discord channel anyways, I'm going to unfull screen this just to kind of talk about our channel. So ignore all these icons here. I'm kind of a mess when it comes to, you may not see them or you may see them. I don't know. I've got a lot of channels I connect to. But if you're new to this Discord channel, you have a lot of these, what we call categories. So they're kind of like the main folders of all these different channels. Channels are text channels in Discord or voice channels. And in here, we have a lot of different resources for you. So you can assign your role if you want here by just clicking one of these emotes. It's a pretty simple thing. You've got your technical emotes, you've got your designer emotes, and then your creative emotes. So if you're like an artist or something, these are a great way just so we know who you are, right? Kind of gives you a little bit of a badge, so to speak. General channel is for anything for discussions. If you just want to say hi or talk, you can do that. If you joined us for the first time, there's an introduce yourselves channel. Great way to talk about who you are and what you kind of what you do or what you're interested in. Our Dev Help is a great channel if you're interested in just asking a question. Say if you have a coding question or a design question or whatever, that's a great place to go. And there's a lot of other things you can dive deep in here. Something I also want to note is that we have our Prototype and Play channel, which is where on that second Friday of the month you'll go to. We can actually see what we had in November. A lot of different channels here and their voice channels, reciprocal voice channels. But just as well, we have our voice channel. So today after the call, we have our general channel here. So this is where we'll all meet up afterwards. So you can feel free to join that. We have a music channel if you ever want to listen to music throughout the day. There's like a README channel in the description. You can read about how to use it. Sometimes we play Among Us, which is kind of fun. So if you're interested in that, you can coordinate that. And just as well, there's a peer channel. So if you have specific questions, you can talk to folks and have fun doing that. So definitely keep in chat there as my cat walks across the screen again. So, all right. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump back in here, go to full screen, and I'll let Stuart introduce himself a little bit.
Thank you. I also would like to say that the Global Game Jam is probably like one of the biggest single events out of the year that really helps me and is a pretty amazing event altogether too, I'd have to say. definitely have learned a lot. Caleb was actually in my second group, I think, second Global Game Jam group, and it's always been like a super positive experience. And every year it's like a good touchstone when I come back. I think I've done 4 now, 3 or 4, and every year it's kind of amazing to see. You like when you're always learning, it's hard to see the growth. But then I look back like 2 years ago or like a year ago, I can see, oh gosh, I am doing something.
That's so true.
Sort of.
Yeah.
My name is Stuart, and I started going to Stuart Lightfoot, and I started going to COG. I think it might even have been about 5 years ago. Still meeting in the mill spot.
Oh yeah.
And where Multiverse had their spot there for a little while, and was really just kind of starting to get into it. A friend of mine told me about Ludum Dare, and so I got into that, and we tried to do that one weekend. We were both creatives coming from kind of a design and music field. We knew a little bit of tech, knew how to do some HTML and CSS, and we were like super gung-ho, got this great idea about it, and then we spent the first night and realized we didn't really know anything at all about how to make a game, particularly using Unity. And it was still pretty fun though. Of course, couldn't finish the game, and I think I remember writing one of the authors of the assets that we wrote. Just looking back now, it was questions he was probably like, "Wow, why are you even using the asset? Then you need to use Unity first or learn how to use it." But fast forward about another few months, and I met Scott and Wes at one of the first COGS meetups. I think I found through meetup.com actually. Initially, I started to try to get into a little bit more, and started learning about game dev, trying to get my feet wet in a little bit more. And on a little bit of a tangent, you guys told me about Killer Queen, and which is a 10-player arcade game. Only arcade, no onlines, for the arcade version, anyways, and 5-on-5. And that was at Arcade Super Awesome when Yellow Brick Pizza was still over there and the arcade was upstairs, and kind of got really into that game. It's super competitive. Kept up with GameDev. Decided to go to Columbus State and graduated there in December. I'm sure, like most people, thought I'd get some sort of work after that, but it's been a little slow going due to COVID. But I've still been hacking away at it, and doing the game jams and whatnot. Really trying to get my foot in the door some way. And the more I kind of was working on some of these bigger projects, I realized that I didn't actually have anything published. So what I wanted to do with this concept was to just one touch everything. So I didn't want to reiterate, or I didn't want to try and keep fixing and keep making things better in a way. As much as I just wanted to finish this concept that I had planned out from start to finish and get it published. And it's still kind of there. It's on itch.io published, so we'll call that published for all intents and purposes. But eventually, I'd like to get on the App Store. And the concept behind this game is mostly due to Killer Queen, because in Killer Queen, you only have one joystick and one button. And I thought, well, this game idea I'm going to do, we're just going to see how many times people can tap a button in 30 seconds. So I thought, well, that was easy enough. And I, kind of thought, well, we can do this in 3 scenes. We'll have a splash scene, a start scene, and then the game scene. I wanted to use everything basically that was native to Unity. So, like, for example, on the high scores and stuff, I actually just used player prefs. I didn't get too into like serialization or anything because, like I said, I wanted to kind of have this one touch concept on everything where I knew I could complete most of these solutions and problems and concepts with what I knew, which is why the game is so simple, also, and just finish it. So, without further ado, I'll kind of show you. I'll also here I'll put the link into the chat. Not that one, but it's on itch.io now, and you can play it. The only thing that I would say is that you really need to play it full screen. So that's another sort of issue too. I kind of knew I would run into was why I wanted to get something published, because I knew just after finishing the game there was going to be other issues. So I more or less just tried to get it up there, right? And if you go to the bottom right hand side, you can actually, here, I'll shut that down. If you go to the bottom right hand side, there's a full screen button that you need to click onto and get there. So that will get you going. Now, there we go. Yeah, I shut off some extras in my background there, so hopefully the video runs a little better for us. The I'll just start it up. Here we go.
I was gonna say, can you guys hear that music okay? It's gonna be a little bit delayed, so we'll wait for you guys here in a little bit.
I can hear it.
If you're in the chat channel, yeah, you can hear it.
Okay, good. Yeah, I turned off my extra stuff in the background because I noticed that it was kind of chugging. Yeah, so another concept that I was trying to use was to basically use as many assets that I already had, even if that was something that I hadn't created, because that was something that I knew from, because I have probably half a dozen Unity projects that have a very unique concept or have a very unique, object or script that I did that's really cool, but it's the only thing really in the project, because a lot of times, I would spend a lot of time making art, or I'd spend a lot of time even, trying to get through Maya, because I'm not necessarily a 3D modeler, and, then make the textures for it, and, make some sounds and things like that. So I really tried to circumvent all of that and just use almost all the assets are from the Humble Bundle, from the Racial Justice and Inequality bundle that happened a while ago. Yeah, tons, just tons and tons and tons of stuff. So I started looking through and I was like, I have plenty. I actually did this music myself because I have a bunch of tracks playing around, but all the sprites and the fonts and sound effects, which there's only a couple in there in the beginning, are all just used assets. So this is all it is. The button is just a button. I'm kind of trying to be irreverent in a way too. I want it to look a little bit hacky in some regards, because the concept again is just to kind of finish it. But you start it up, got 3 seconds to start, and then you just this is all you do, and it's very similar to even Killer Queen, where all you do a lot of times in Killer Queen is tap a button as fast as you can. And of course you have a joystick, but it's not quite the same. Obviously, there's very little strategy here involved. And that's it.
All right.
You can play again if you want.
Sorry, guys. I think I'm lagging on my end too, but I turned it down a little bit just so we can hear you.
Sure. That's
cool.
fine.
All right. Should be better now.
So again, you can kind of see the background here. This is, some tiling issues. I know there's a few ways to fix that, and I just didn't get into that. You can see all these lines right in the background on the tiling. It looks a little bit, not perfect, but again, I was trying to just finish things.
Yeah.
And that's really it. You can play again. It does keep a high score. The highest score I've seen so far is 286, which seems really hard to me because I could only get like 232. I think was my highest. But you can already see like there's just problems all the way, and I really had to focus on not approaching every single little problem. Like, for example, when I click the button, I tried for about a half hour. I really wanted them to spawn in a way that it was symmetrical and it just kind of keeps going off to the right a little bit. And that was just one of those things that I, after about a half hour, I kind of timed myself too. Because that was another thing, like Professor Tom had been kind of, preaching on us to start to try to track this stuff down a little bit. And so that was something that I kind of did with a lot of this too, was just time myself out and kind of make limitations constantly for myself on the way. So, 5 years later, an associate's degree and probably, countless hours in Unity and whatnot. This is where I am so far.
No, that's cool.
I'm pretty proud of it because, being almost, 40 years old now and, always having to work like, part-time jobs and kind of be a stay-at-home dad and, really learn this. I kind of just wanted to share it as a bit of a flight of the underdog, to quote some Charles Mingus there, that, it can be done with some perseverance. And definitely now we did the GDEX game jam too, and now I am working with another programmer a little bit more regularly, Andrew Davidson, and he's doing
yeah.
He's real good. He can actually code and stuff. So it has been nice, starting to like work the skills and collaborate a little bit together. But I'd have to say, like, big thanks to Cog and big thanks to you guys. That's kind of, what a lot of the presentation is, because although I haven't been too much involved, I'd say in the last, year and a half, maybe 2 years, just school and life. Last year doesn't really count, I guess. But Cog and the Game Jam and GDEX, I think, have been, a huge part of my growth. I'd say as just learning, being around, seeing things, and just keep moving.
Well, and just a light touch on that is like we're really not like Scott and I do this a lot. Like Caleb and I do this. We're always more than happy to help out with Cog. But I think for the most part, like it really isn't as strong as like what you guys do to present, right? Like and you do to just collaborate with each other. I feel like we have a really supportive community. People have questions, like you can just message either on Facebook or Discord, and people are happy to help. So like that's not like a note to be like, hey, we're humble and it's cool. It's like it's more or less just like a note that people well, I mean, yeah, some of it is. I can't just say it isn't, but it's we're as strong as what everybody's been able to produce, right? So, like, if you guys and gals or whatever are interested in being a part of this community, just talk. Like, you don't even have to present today, but if you want to chat in the channel and say, "Hey, I've got something cool to show," that's all going to help everybody. So yeah, that's just kind of a side note. But what I really want to do next couple of minutes is just kind of have a bit of a Q&A with you, Stu, and your experience. So
Definitely.
let's talk a little bit about. You said that you had a professor and you had formal education. So what was that like? Where did you go? What was your degree or whatnot? Um, and what was that
Well, I
like?
come from music initially, and like I went to Fort Hayes here in Columbus for fine arts in high school, and really tried to take that path as far as I could, and was a guitarist for many years and decided I liked to eat, so I became a teacher and eventually moved, like guitar lessons and whatnot into like an actual teaching position at a school teaching band and music to pre-K and through sixth. And that was like, I think, a really good foundation for me. Um, because then when I transitioned to Columbus State, which is where I started, learning, um, I had a better appreciation for being a student, even though Professor Tom could tell you I'm not the greatest student. I think I am a pretty good learner. But, like Professor Tom at Columbus State, I'd say one of my, you know, most positive and bigger influences there. You guys have worked with him, I'm sure, many times. He's great. Um, I had Henry also. Some great classes. Definitely learned quite a bit from him. Uh, I always liked Carswell there at Columbus State. He was always he had a real like passion for learning and making sure that you enjoyed, yourself, and learned a lot from him too. Somebody that's not really in the game dev one, but Josh Wood. I don't know if you know Josh Wood there at Columbus State. He mostly teaches C++, but he was an amazing professor.
Okay.
Yeah, helped me get around some of that. I hadn't had Cody, but I know Cody teaches there. But I've always had like really positive experiences with him at COG, and he's always been super helpful answering questions. It's a lot of the same group, right? It's a lot of crossover there for sure.
Well, and that's what's interesting about the game development community is, everybody's just like, well, you're either a programmer or an artist, right? Like, and that's like a very simplistic way of seeing it. One of the reasons why I like working in games is not just necessarily that you get to make cool stuff, you get to make entertaining stuff, but you get access to a lot of different, in terms of the game development pipeline, a lot of different like professional, experience. You could, like I was mentioning, you can meet up with musicians. Obviously, you can meet up with like creatives, like artists, concept artists, animators, 3D artists. Um, Even music could be considered creative, but you get to meet up with designers, which are really awesome, like really brilliant people that can write and make games fun in a sense. I mean, it's all fun, but it's kind of thinking about the player. And then, you also meet with people that just kind of work to collaborate all these like people together because it's obviously a very broad, group to kind of get to work. And that's the neat thing is that there's so many different paths. There's not necessarily a right or wrong way to do it. My experience was I went to the Columbus College of Art and Design and I went to animation, but I didn't specifically go into games.
Okay.
But it was like I knew I needed to get a foundation in art to apply to something if I wanted to do that. And I knew that I wanted to get an interactive design in games in some instance. And now I work with e-learning as my day job and then games as my Batman night job, so to speak. uh, and so, yeah, I mean, and that's the cool thing is there's a lot of different ways to do it. And I think my best suggestion would be kind of like what you did, Stu, is just kind of get connected with the community because there might be something that works with you. Either that's because you need to stay local, right? And you have a family or something like that, and you need to stay local and you want to figure out how to kind of get, connected with the local community. You can also figure out what does it take to do it remote or what does it take to like go to a different state or a different country. Getting connected with the community is a great way to do that. Um, and you kind of did a approach that I thought was always a neat strategy, which was basically go through a community college. And what I usually tell folks, like Tom, because Tom, has gone through Columbus State. That's where he started. He started learning how to program with some of the same teachers that you had, or similar. And then he went to OSU for science and engineering. So he actually went in and learned computer science and learned programming that way, and now works with the company that I work with Multivarious Games.
Hmm.
Not saying that that's the one way you can do it, but you could do that in a different state too. So if
Mhm.
you're say in California, go to community college, get a couple of education under your belt. Maybe those credits can carry over to a university, get some finalized education that way. But you also then get integrated in the community and get to talking to people. You never know, like, hey, all of a sudden am talking with a lot of folks in the game industry, and like Microsoft happens to be nearby, and maybe I can talk to them and get into their games, right? Like you just never know. So yeah, collaborating and networking is still really big, and I would argue that it's still like kind of very similar. It's a little bit different, don't get me wrong, but it's very similar nowadays that a lot of it has to be online in some instance too. Um, the unfortunate thing is that we can't necessarily do in-person networking nowadays, which probably makes the online networking that much more important, right? So,
And the connections you already have that much more too.
Yep.
right, exactly.
And we've had a lot of good conversations in Discord on like our side events. I've noticed this conversation come up in the prototype and play rooms that we have on Friday nights. Is the challenges of doing not just the communication end of collaborating, but things like play testing. We've had a lot of really good conversations of, okay, if we can't get together, how do we do our play testing with new players coming into player game and giving us feedback? There's all sorts of different challenges for the mobile environments that we have now that we've had some really good conversations about too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also something that helped is a focus because um I was and basically I spent some years doing like a lot of plants too, and even like my last seasonal job I worked at a greenhouse, and I've kind of kept up, like that was like my part-time side job was always landscaping or something like that. So initially I got in and was, knew a little HTML. I was like, well, let me try and do a plant website, and then I started looking into like how to do applications and different things like that, and I was learning how to code at the very beginning, and it was like a little bit. I mean, there's so much that you could, from just like syntax and languages and all the languages to, well, do you want to just do web dev? Well, then you got
Mm-hmm.
React, and then you got all those boilerplates, then you got some JS, So
Right.
the game dev, after, it was something that helped give me some focus to kind of start, exploiting what it was I was good at to help me learn a lot more. And I also think that the networking, like at Cog, was a big part of that, parallel for sure.
Right. So, kind of on the vein you were talking about, there's lots of different disciplines within programming itself, and lots of different choices when you get into Unity. As you use, we have a question from the crowd from Bunny Gun. Is I was wondering if you could share some resources that helped you learn Unity. It's something that I've wanted to learn, but it seems overwhelming. With which jumping into it, I totally agree. It is very overwhelming, but
So
um,
many buttons and
right,
text and windows.
right. I'll let you answer the question, but like the trick is to build something really, really small, and then build
Yeah.
something on top of that, and then something on top of that to like introduce new areas and new stuff to it until you get much more comfortable, and then start working on the big thing. But yeah, what's from the crowd? What's some of the resources or websites or training materials that you use to really get into it, into Unity? That is.
You're asking me then.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So like I did it the wrong way, like I was telling you when we did Ludum Dare, and we were like, well, let's make a game. We're just going to make a game. This was our idea, and it was kind of a cool game where we had like all these sort of like impossible puzzles, like um, I like the one sort of MCS or triangle and things like that. You just kind of, we had a few shapes, we put them together, things like that. But we didn't know what to do. We knew how to we knew what we wanted, but we didn't know how to do it. So I would say, like Scott said, you got to start with a very small scope, and then you probably got to cut that in half, and then you got to probably cut that in half one more time, and then that's probably where you should start.
Yes.
And
that's so true. Yeah.
I think, honestly, I think the rollerball that Unity gives is one of the better, easier things to start with that you could probably knock out, in about a day's time, maybe, for a beginner. At the very least, even if you didn't finish it, the rollerball that Unity gives will give you something that you made that you can move around or collect things and make sounds with for sure. And I think that's probably, I'd say, the best beginner tutorial that I've seen.
So take one of
Um,
the demos that comes out of in the box and kind of
yeah.
picking that apart, reverse engineering it. You're saying?
Well, if you follow the tutorial on the Unity,
Oh, right.
it's
Yes.
it's just a full tutorial from beginning to end. You download the
That's
newest
good.
Unity,
Good
and
point.
they start you with all like sort of native things. I think you have to download one, asset package or whatever for some of those things, but maybe not even that.
Good
Yeah,
point.
It's really simple and instructive.
that's the coolest thing about Unity, especially nowadays, is once you have the engine installed, um, they have tutorials right out of the box. Like literally, once you open it up, you can say, "Hey, here's like how to learn this and that." And that's really like when you're looking at a tool that complex, and you were even talking about that 3D modeling tool called Maya. It's the same idea. There's so many bells and whistles, you don't really know where to start, but you got to start somewhere. And the easiest thing is to create like a simple game, and they have the rolling ball idea is a really good place to start, because then you can kind of be like, all I need to know is how to use the interface and how to like add an object in there, an interactive object, how to add code so that I can make it move, maybe add in things like sound effects if that's a thing, add in like interactivity, and hopefully by the end you can learn how to publish it so you can get an idea of just the whole process. And I used to teach kids how to do games, and that's exactly what we did. We'd say, guys, this is going to be so easy. You're going to go like, why didn't I even like approach this? Because that's the thing. Game development can be very simple, but it obviously can get very complex. But the core concepts are the same, more or less. I mean, things can change between different game genres and whatnot, but kind of working through the same pipeline, like it's things are kind of really recurrent in terms of how you kind of move through that pipeline. So what I would encourage is just make a game. You can go through YouTube, find tutorials. You can literally use the same tutorials in Unity when you open it up. There's other engines that do the same. If you're talking about Game Maker, you're talking about Unreal. There's all kinds of different engines out there. And all I would say is start small, start as soon as possible, and make sure that you don't try to make something too crazy too fast, right? You will get there, but I would definitely say, like, if you just want to create this rolling marble game where you're just trying to get into a hole or something like that, like that's a really simple game to make.
Yeah.
Um,
You
It's
and like
definitely
with learning as a teacher, I always wanted to like get something in their hands, like if it was teaching guitar, I wouldn't try and teach them chords to start with. I taught like an open note and then like do one fret, and like we could play the blues or something. You gotta, if you can get something in your hands, I feel like it's just kind of get some gratification, and that does get you started, as opposed to, like, for example, I probably spent too much time on YouTube videos initially, going over these concepts of like, well, how can I procedurally generate a dungeon? When I didn't necessarily know how to make a prefab correctly either. So just, trying to start, like you said, as small as possible, just to do something.
and if it's something small enough and also that you don't necessarily love, so if it's something that doesn't get finished or if it's something you throw away, you're perfectly content to do so. This is your first project is not going to be your dream project or the project that's completely amazing. You can save it and look back on it fondly to say, wow, I really didn't know what I was doing. But it's definitely something very small. I really love what you said, that because I always preach do small, small, small for your first one. But I love what you said of like come up with a very small idea and then cut it in half and then cut it in half again. That's a great thing. I like that.
It took
It's
me like
very
5
true.
years to get that
Well,
Yeah,
down.
and it's funny you say that because that's a common like project management like
it's
theory
true.
where
Yeah,
I think it's you cut it and you take the time and however much you think it's going to take, multiply it by it's a weird number, but something like about 4 times as much. Um,
yep,
yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but it's like it's actually not that
Yeah,
bad of an
sure.
idea, especially if
Yeah.
you're starting off and you don't really know. But to your point, like it's getting the breadth for a couple of reasons of the entire process. What I would encourage you to do is your next step is maybe putting that app on like a store somewhere, whether that's itch.io, which I think you said you might have had already.
It, it is, yeah,
Okay.
but it's only browser play at the moment.
No, and that's fine. Well, because you had to learn how to publish it, right?
That was the idea, and then when I
Yeah,
got it up there, the resolutions were all goofy. So like,
exactly.
that was a whole other issue.
Well, and that's the whole learning process, right? So that's really important to do, even if it's like, because you don't, the last thing you want to do is have this gigantic game that you've been building for 4 years, and maybe you do have better understanding of that pipeline, but it can get frustrating if you're like got all of these pipelines put together and then now you have to figure out how to connect them all without the prior experience of like, well, why isn't this working when you didn't even have a chance to see what it looks like at a simpler scale. So that's why a lot of times we really do say like try to make it as small as possible, at least for the first attempts, the first couple attempts. Um,
Or like at the global game jam, I couldn't really understand why you said it the first year, and then I realized why you always say practice uploading it one day before or sometime before. Just practice uploading your project.
yeah,
And I was like, well, why? We're not even finished. What's the big deal?
exactly. Yeah,
It matters.
because it's a process in of itself, and that's the same thing with like uploading to a store or uploading to like a site like itch.io, which just literally captures either the web version and plays it or a
Mm-hmm.
zip file and you can download it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's potentially, I'm not going to say there always is, but your first attempts there's going to be hiccups, and if you can do that at a smaller scale, it's going to be much easier to troubleshoot that. So, um, and that's the whole process. And so here's the second part of why that's really important, is you start to learn what you enjoy of that process, whether that's music, maybe that's the interactive design part, maybe you're a programmer, maybe the design part where you're just like, I think it's cool just connecting this all together and tweaking it to make it work well. Maybe it's like the illustration part or the 3D modeling part or the animation part. Like you start to discover in of yourself like what of that process that you like the most. Um, maybe you like sharing the game a lot and you think it'd be really cool to try to like shop around other games. Maybe you're into marketing, right? Or promoting the game. You just never know, but those are all part of the pipeline. And as you start to work with it, you almost kind of discover in of yourself, like what of the game development pipeline do you really like? And
Mhm.
maybe
That's
that's the
definitely where I
focus.
am now, is figuring that out for sure. Because I think I'm a little behind the curve on, like, let's say coding. Um, you know, I'm not saying I can't do it. I can do it, and I know what I can do, but I'm probably not going to be tapped for a lot of high level work in that regards. Whereas my art or my music, I probably am a lot stronger there and different things like that. So I'd agree with that. At some point, well, that's what Tom and Henry would always tell us too, is that at some point you're going to have to exploit a sort of specialization or, what is it that you offer that, is unique?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's thinking of it that, especially it kind of helps because a lot of times, not every time, and we've got folks in COGS that, make their own games all the time, usually by themselves, but
Hmm.
it's very uncommon to like make your game entirely from scratch. You usually have to involve somebody in the pipeline at one point in time, either because you need an artist or a programmer or a musician, a voice actor, whatever it is. And as my cat comes across again, we want to be able to know the pipeline enough to be able to explain it to somebody else that we want to get involved with. right? So if you can say, look, I've got this prototype working, I'm not really a programmer, but I need someone because I know I need to make X, Y, and Z. Who is interested in helping? Who wants to be a part of this? And then you can talk about, like, is there a compensation expense for that? Is it just work experience? Are you just learning how to do it? But it's good to know because, and getting to learn that, because you may not think it's that hard, but if you can almost show through creating a prototype, it's almost easier for a programmer to understand how they fit in that. Because I've seen so many times where someone will create what's called like a game design document, right? Or game Bible is what they sometimes call it. Game design Bible, sometimes they call it. But they design this whole thing out and they say, okay, who wants to make this? And I'm like, well, you got to think about, okay, what's the scope of the project? What are the resources required of it? Like really dive deep. And sometimes it's really hard to understand that without going through the entire process yourself and creating a very simple game. And knowing that, hey, this is very art focused. So I know I need an artist because it's all going to be like hand animated, or I just need a lot of assets. Um, or I really need someone who is really good at game design because there's a lot of narrative to this. And I need someone who can write a really good story because that's the fulcrum of this whole piece that really is going to sell it as a really engaging game. Or a programmer, right? Obviously, or a musician, right? So there's all kinds of things that you'll need to know and kind of really get an idea of how long it's going to take and what kind of resources are required. That if you are building that in a small scale, you can kind of have a better understanding of how that works, which is great because then when you're talking to other people and asking for help, it's almost like you kind of showed the work a little bit beforehand, so it kind of like wins people over. Like, oh, cool! If sounds like you're doing a little bit of work too, so like it sounds like maybe we would work together pretty well too, because that's important too. Like you don't want to feel like you're the only one working on the project that's someone else's idea. Like you kind of want to collaborate with them, right? You want to learn alongside them.
Or at least that you can offer, as much.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, it helps, and it's good to have open discussions about that too. Like, hey, I mean, even if it's like, hey, I don't have funding to pay for this yet. This is just a learning
Mhm.
experience. That's fine. Just be upfront about it, right? And if you say, hey, I would be happy to do an ad, like a revenue share of it, if we do decide to sell it, or hey, I'm not looking to sell it now, but maybe if we do, we can talk about that when it's closer. And even I would say talk about it sooner than later, right? Because you never want to get to a point where you don't know, uh, where the revenue share goes to and who it goes to and all that good stuff. But it's good to just kind of open it up for discussion. So, um, but yeah, I know, guys. I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of choppiness. I don't know. This is kind of how it goes. It sounds like the audio is fine, so maybe we're kind of
Yeah,
good
your
there.
audio's been fine. Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess that all that really matters. Cool. So I got a final question, but I wanted to see, are there any other questions coming in um, that?
Nothing.
Yeah. Okay.
Are we back?
I think so. Yeah. Okay, we're back.
Oh, okay. Yay, we're back.
Yay! Hello,
It was so
people
dark there for a
that
moment.
are not here. There's only two people. That's fine. But cool. Yeah. So we're gonna wrap it up for today. Sorry about that, everybody. That I don't know how far I got it throughout, but I lost internet, which is fun. That's something I got to deal with. I got to work with. But I guess we were just saying thanks, Stuart, for coming out today. We're gonna talk to him live in the Discord channel. So if you want to talk to him or catch up with other people, please do. Keep in touch about events coming in December. Our next one is Prototype and Play, December 11th from 6 to 9 p.m. in our Discord channels. So have a lot of fun there playing other people's games and getting to talk to developers. So yeah, definitely keep in touch there. And then we'll keep you in touch with the website coming up this month or next month. And then also the Global Game Jam, which is waiting for approval. And then we should be having a lot of fun with that in January. And yeah, I guess just thanks, Stuart, for coming out and presenting. Thanks, Scott. And Caleb was on the sidelines too, helping to coordinate the event. And if nothing else, you guys have a good rest of your holiday weekend for Thanksgiving, and we'll be around for Christmas here and there. And yeah, just chat with us, have fun, and we'll catch you on the flip side. So,
Join us on Discord.
all right, we'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.